Okay, I think I'm live right now. Hello everyone, this is Chastity, and today's stream is going to be unlike anything I've ever done before on Twitch. I'm streaming on Twitch, and I'm going to work on my school while I stream. And I'm going to explain some of this as I go along, but basically, I don't usually stream my schoolwork because it's boring. It's not the most exciting thing. However, I want people to get a picture of just how busy I am and the kind of things I do. Because people, when they find out that I'm a college student, they're like, well, what are you in school for? And I said, well, I'm in the game business and esports science program. The idea is theoretically getting a job in the video game industry. Now, that may or may not actually work out for me. Who can say? There's no guarantees about anything in life. But I am learning a lot of interesting things. So what I'm going to try to do today is I'm going to try to make my schoolwork fun. Okay. So I'm going to be showing the school assignments that I have to work on. I'm going to start with what's due first. So let's see here. What I'm going to do here, let's see, I'm going to move myself over here. Let's see, actually, I should, well, yeah, I'll figure it out as I go along. But here is my web browser. This month's class is Game Business Models, and I'm in week 4. So there's all kinds of things here. So there's all of this stuff. Now, some of this is going to be videos that I have to watch, and I can't get through all this in one night. It's going to take me, sometimes I don't even get all my schoolwork done for the week. I work full-time at Walmart, and I barely sleep, and sometimes my school and work are too much and something suffers. I don't get everything done. I feel real bad about it, but that's the way it is. So here's the thing, is I have to focus on what is due first. Okay, so today's date is the 24th, which is interestingly the anniversary of when Roe versus Wade was overturned. So it's a holiday for me. Anyway, so the big assignment, I know the pitch deck and video presentation, I will probably fail miserably, but I have ideas of how I'm going to do it, but I haven't begun anything on it. So the discussion posts, however, are usually what is due first. So discussion, build your career in games like it's an RPG. So I have to do a post by Wednesday, June 26th at 10:29 p.m. and I have to do a reply by Friday. And then another discussion post that's also due. So there's 2 discussion posts. Now this course is unique because there's usually 1 discussion post, and the discussion posts are usually time consuming. So I changed my schedule at Walmart, so I'm off on Mondays and Saturdays. So Monday night, like tonight, is the night where I try to do my discussion posts that are due, because that's the first thing due. And because I don't want to submit anything late, but sometimes I do submit things late, and I fail or miss the assignments entirely. I just can't do it all. So let's go to the first discussion post. What is this going to be about? It's going to be interesting, I can tell you that. So and also you may notice that I titled my stream Chastity's Full Sail Challenge, and that's because Full Sail University is the name of my school, and I am Chastity. But you know that if you follow Chastity's Chess Challenge, which is what my Twitch channel is mostly about. So here's the thing. So I'm supposed to watch the panel Build Your Career in Games Like It's an RPG and post a discussion listing out your career goals and steps to achieve them. Please cite any references in your discussion. Enter an initial post by Wednesday, 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Initial post must be a minimum of 2 fully developed paragraphs. Yeah, and then enter response post by Friday, to at least one of your classmates' initial posts or response posts. So, minimum of 2 paragraphs. 2 paragraphs isn't much. So I tend to go over the minimum. I try to be detailed, and that's part of what is time consuming, but I am super tired and I'm sick too. I'm not feeling well. So my discussion posts may be a little bit shorter than what I usually do. So I'm supposed to watch this panel. So let's see, what is this? What is this? It's a video. Oh, it's an hour-long video. Oh. Huh. Interesting. Okay, so it's a video. I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can watch this whole video during a Twitch stream or if that's allowed. I'm not sure. I would kind of like to though. How about I watch this video? And so watching this video is one of the things I'm supposed to do. And then I'm supposed to write a discussion post about it. So maybe that's what I'll do. Maybe that's what I'll do for this stream, and I hope that's not a problem with copyright, but I want people to see the real life I live as a college student. So that's what I'm going to do, okay? I'm going to watch this video, and if anybody is watching me on Twitch Live, then you can watch it along with me. So let's see what this video is and what it's about. Build your career in games like it's an RPG. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to move myself over here. So I'm just going to watch, listen, and react to this video. I mean, why not? I've never done this before. So let's just go with it. Let's just roll.
Welcome, everyone, to Game Developers Conference 2022. Great to be together virtually. This panel is Build Your Career in Games Like It's an RPG. A lot of people think about their careers in a linear way. You start out as an artist and you retire as an art director. But for some of us, the path's a little more jagged and a little bit weird. We're going to talk today a bit about how to take the road less traveled and meander onto new areas of the map and take a side quest or two. So first, let's introduce the panelists. So I'm Gordon Bellamy, full professor, USC Games, and CEO of Gay Gaming Professionals. And in some direction, hey, Anne, who are you?
Hi, I'm Anne Gibault. I'm product head and creative director right now at Phoenix Labs, Montreal. I started in the industry around 20 years ago as a 3D animator, and I went through lots of different careers and paths to get to being a creative director right now.
Welcome, Anne. How about you, Connie?
Yes, I'm Connie Griffith, and I am content lead on State of Decay 3 over at Undead Labs. And I've been in the industry, this is going on my 19th year. And I got my start as a QA tester on World of Warcraft the first time it launched. And I've done a lot of things, but I've ended up as a designer focusing on storytelling experiences. But as I'm sure we'll explore on the panel, I've been a producer, I've been a game writer, I've done business development. And so I'm happy to be here and share my experiences with everyone.
Welcome, Connie. And hello, Brian.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm Brian Corrigan. I'm the head of Americas for Crafton PUBG. Probably most people know it better by PUBG. I do a little bit of work with Convoy Ventures, which is a venture capital company, so investing and advising. I got my career started out a long time ago working on Guitar Hero 3 networking services, actually as an engineer. And kind of just like Ann said, weaved my way through a weird path to get where I am today.
And last and most, special thanks to you, Jing, for bringing us together first and foremost, was even be possible as a conversation, but also please introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Jing. Most recently, I was a general manager at Phoenix Labs, heading up their LA and Bay Area studios. That was a very strategy and operations focused role, but I actually got my start in games in branding and marketing, first working with Nintendo and then at Riot Games. And then during my time at Riot, I started to look for ways to expand my skill set further and took an opportunity to join the merchandising team, which was forming up at the time. So through that experience, got like a tour through everything from apparel development to web platform to global channel management, e-commerce events, player support, all of that. And then after that, I went on an adventure with a couple of engineering friends where we started an educational game startup. And then a little ways down the road, Phoenix Labs acquired our studio, and then I worked on special projects before taking on the GM role. So I kind of gotten to experience a lot of interesting stuff on the business and product side of games. And right now I'm focusing on some personal projects that let me delve into the art, design, and engineering aspects of games and technology. And I've loved having a multi-class career. It's been such a continuous journey of learning and growing, and I'm so excited to speak with all of you today.
Wow. As I think about it, wow, it's like over 100 years of experience, all these max level characters, but that's not where this RPG began, right? So just taking our metaphor back a bit, we understand where you're at, but let's talk about how you began. Let's visualize your character sheet, as it were. Let's talk a little bit about that and maybe go into like an origin story. So like, Connie, take us in. Where were you 10 years ago? Like, where were you thinking about? What you dream of? Paint us all a picture.
Oh, wow. Okay. 10 years ago was actually like the midpoint. So not quite an origin story, but I would say baby Connie did not know what baby Connie wanted, which I don't think is that unusual for a lot of folks. That was the first time that I hit reset on my career. I was having a bit of a quarter life crisis. I'd previously done sort of like business development. I was an executive assistant. I was doing production. I'd only worked for one studio at that time, which was Blizzard. And I just came to this realization that even though I was working for my dream company and, you know, people were telling me, oh, you're doing a great job, you're awesome, I realized I really wasn't very happy. In fact, I was very unhappy. And that was a very hard thing for me to sort of struggle with because, you know, when you're successful and you're climbing your career ladder and you're going, no, this is where I belong. And I think I originally just had a hard time where I never even saw myself in games. I loved video games. I just didn't know. I wasn't a programmer. I was an artist, right? I was like, what exactly could I do? And so that's kind of why I fell into sort of production. Because I was like, oh, that I can do. I'm good with people, right? People like me. I can do this job. I can contribute. But I think that was the source of my unhappiness, which I didn't sort of internalize until later, was that I actually was creative, that I actually wanted to go and make games of my own. I didn't want to just run meetings and take notes and help people organize their work and schedule stuff. It's funny because I've gone full circle where I do a lot of the facilitation work that I did 10 years ago. But it's different, right? And I think 10 years ago is when I basically decided to leave Blizzard. I'd been there for 8 years and I started over as a game writer. And that's kind of my origin story on my path to pursuing being on the other side of the fence for game development.
That's fantastic. I think along this path, we've all found that moment of where it's time to start being the game industry versus exploring the opportunity that was given to us. Maybe, Jane, could you talk about a point when you knew you wanted to make a major change that was sort of born out of you, not just the opportunities provided to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So about 7-8 years into so I started off in marketing and branding, right? And so I kind of had experienced a lot in that realm. And I had been about 7 or 8 years into my career there. And I remember having a conversation with one of my mentors at the time. And he asked me the typical question of, hey, where do you see yourself in 5, 10 years? Like, what do you see yourself doing? And I realized at that moment a couple of things. One, that I didn't see myself continuing to do marketing and branding as kind of my day-to-day, everyday focus. And the second was that I couldn't exactly put words to an exact title or role. Instead, I just, as I thought about it, all I really wanted was to make sure that whatever was ahead of me in the future, I felt like I had a high degree of confidence that I would be an asset to my team, that I'd be able to tackle any kind of problem, learn anything, learn any role that I wanted to learn. And this desire to be endlessly useful. And I wanted to be this kind of Swiss Army knife of different skills. And be, of course, very proud of the things that I've worked on and proud of the effect that I have on the team around me. And so the moment that I realized that I just didn't have like a particular thing or role in mind and instead wanted to build this multifaceted skill set, it really opened up the way I thought about what do I want to do next. And it became less like I felt myself getting off of like the career ladder and instead looking across the different kind of branches of skill trees that I could be developing in and looking at where do I want to double down on existing strengths? Where do I want to shore up weaknesses? And, kind of pointing back to what Connie was saying, like there were also some strength areas that just because I was good at those things didn't mean that I needed to continue to do that job if it was not going to be a thing that was going to be fulfilling for me in the long term. And so, yeah, I think that moment and that deep introspection about 7, 8 years into my career was what set everything else into motion.
That's so interesting. I play a lot of Age of Empires, so I think a lot about pathfinding, but also what you brought up, which is skill tree, right? Skill trees that do like wondrous moments in your career and the steps you take when you have choices to do so. Let's bring you into the conversation, Brian. Like, did you always know that you wanted to run a studio? Or where did you make compromises to get there, like in your skill tree, in your pathfinding or in your skill tree to get to run a studio?
Yeah, I love that idea you're talking about with skill trees because, I feel like you kind of always have to know your character sheet at any time. And I think like sometimes people are not honest about that. You kind of have this idea of who you are, but you can't always get it by looking in the mirror, right? You have to have friends who you can talk to and who you can kind of be honest about to like tell you, maybe what you're good at and what you're missing. And for me, for me, it was always about the entrepreneurship side. I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. My dad was an entrepreneur. My grandfather was an entrepreneur. I just had it in me as a kid. And I went to school for computer engineering, got out of school and got a job at a casino company. I don't know anything about gambling, don't like gambling, don't know anything about it at all. But I knew eventually, at some point in my life, like I kind of wanted to run my own company. So I was looking at my skill sheet and saying like, what can I bring? Maybe I'm a half decent programmer. First thing is kind of like learn to be a manager or leader. So I spent some time with that and I knew that was a deficit for me. So early on, that's what I tried to learn a little bit and like find good people to look up to. As you get older, you just kind of find like, well, these things that you're spending your time thinking about all of a sudden are these things that you kind of end up doing. And I think like, eventually it kind of got to be that point where it was like, if I'm going to do this, there's no better time. We were thinking about having kids and that sort of thing. So the folks on the call know, but I live in upstate New York, which is not exactly known to be like the mecca of game development that like, LA or Seattle or Austin or Montreal for sure with Anne, for sure Montreal, right? So, for me, it was like, well, if I want to get into the industry and I want to kind of be an entrepreneur, the idea of like going out and starting your own game studio and making games, it just really wouldn't happen. I mean, the funding wasn't there. I didn't have the experience. So I tried to leverage the skill that I thought I had, which was, this, knowledge of like back end and kind of big data systems like cloud. This was brand new. And so I kind of started a contract studio around bringing games kind of like into the cloud and online. And this was the same time that the Xbox was kind of like just coming online. And I was lucky enough to have one of the first games I worked on be Guitar Hero with a local studio, the only local studio here called Vicarious Visions. They're amazing. And I don't know why they trusted us. They shouldn't, but we worked really hard, and I think we did a good job. And kind of leveraged that later into a few more steps. But eventually, I did get to where I wanted, which was to run my own studio. So I kind of always had the dream of being an entrepreneur, but it's just it's tough to sometimes see that far ahead, knowing how much you have to do. But I did my best, and I did make it. So
that's so cool, Brian. I mean, so Brian, you just spoke very powerfully to like your internal sense, your internal truth, right? To move it forward, but also listening to the world around you to recognize what might be special in relationship to others. Let's bring Anne into the conversation. Anne, because I've known you for a lifetime, right? through a number of roles and evolutions. However, there is a truth, or dare I say it, transformer spark inside of you. When did you discover, the truth, like that you were going to be in games and this is what you want to bring to the table, whether that be sort of in your heart, like just in your bones, like Brian spoke of, or in your relationship with others, like your spark that would be true no matter what the role is going forward?
I like humans. I always like human interactions, and building something together as a team is always the most important thing. Whatever the role, whatever the position, whatever the project, is the people you work with at the end that is important. So the path I had, I worked for like over 11 years at Ubisoft Montreal, which is a very big studio. There's always at least 17 projects going on at the same time. So the opportunities of doing whatever is there if you have certain skills. Of course, I couldn't claim myself being, I want to be a programmer tomorrow. So I don't have those skills. But in terms of management and, like video game development for me is a second career. I went back to school at 30. So it gives you my age. I'm over 50 now. It's a second career. So before that, I managed people. I discovered a lot of things. I worked in music stores and I worked in survey on the phone. And I did tons of crappy jobs before this. So for me, game dev, whatever the role, it's like, wow, okay, I'm ready to go to Mars or wherever you're going to send me. I'm just happy to be there surrounded by wonderful people working on games, So for me at the start, being a 3D animator, it was the craft itself that I really, really enjoyed. I really loved the craft of animating in 3D. But very rapidly, like the second project, people at Ubisoft Montreal said, you know what, we think you're ready to be a manager about a team of animation. I said, wow, okay, I'm going to try it out. So I kind of stopped animating after only like 2 years. It's this little like sad thing about dropping the animation, but I discovered so many much more things. And I did discover along the way that okay, people are important. Like this is key. It's still true today. But what do I bring over being able to work with people and being good to work with people? What can I bring to the table right now? And I want to work on products, and I want to invest myself in doing amazing games. So, like the question you asked to Jing, like what made a change like 10 years ago? For me, 10 years ago, it's when I took the decision. I actually stopped working in the games industry for about 6 months. I wanted to write a novel, a sci-fi novel, and I just stopped working for 6 months. I created this universe, the context, the characters about that novel, and started talking about it to some friends that most of them are working in a game industry. So they were telling me, forget about the novel, just do a game about it. And if you start your own company, I'm in. And it's like this. A year after that, we started our own studio, and from there, I'm way more into gaming than I was like 10 years ago.
Wow, that's the spark. If you're not getting it, you're getting it now. The spark, right? I ask great questions. I want to bring it back to you, Connie. You sort of take us down this path as RPG. I want people to have specificity, right? So I want to take us to the moment, okay? Like what for you was the critical point, okay? when you really were what you wanted changed? Like, take us into detail. We know that you've moved, but what was the moment? And you're like, this is the change. It's happening going forward.
Oh man. Okay. Oof. So there is so much in that question, and I'm going to try hard not to like tear up on camera because this is a deeply emotional question for me. I think it's for everyone because we all know being in games is very hard, right? This industry is not always kind to everyone, and I mean, okay, so first and foremost, I got into this industry because of the people, and I stayed here because of the people, and I continue to be here because I just love the people in games. I love the people I work with. I love the people that I get to meet. And it's just when you meet other folks that love to play and make games, there's just this instant connection about problem solving and creativity. And so that is a huge spark for me. I've actually tried to leave games at least twice, and it's not been entirely successful. But this is sort of a personal story where, so I lost my first husband to cancer, and at one point when he was still fighting his cancer, we had to fly to Germany to get treatment. It's a procedure that's not approved here in the United States. It's like laser resection. There's one hospital in rural Germany, right? Where they do this, and we're sitting there. It's a tiny hospital in the middle of like these woods, and there was a teenage boy from Finland sitting next to us, and my husband, who was an artist, he was an artist at Blizzard, and so he was just sketching different things. And this kid looks over, and both him and his parents, their English was okay, right? And they just go over, and this kid, his eyes just light up, right? And him and my husband had the same rare cancer. They bonded. My husband drew things for him. And I think that was the moment when I was like, we do more than make games.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We sorry, we connect people. We give people a shared thing to love.
There you go. Well, that's wow. Thank you for trusting and sharing with us, Connie. That's awesome and meaningful. Thank you. I want to also return to what you were saying, because you were sort of alluding to a moment for you. It felt like when your community rallied around you and said, "Anne, we are down, to work with you," that sort of propelled you forward into the next phase of your career. So maybe talk about that group, your party, right? That group that you were running those dungeons with, who showed up, right, as they could to be with you. Yeah, talk about that experience when they came together, and then you turn that into professional action.
Actually, I think that the people I talked to about this project kind of had a similar path and a similar delusion, maybe, about the industry and working in a big, huge structure to make games. Like when you're like 500, like my artistic director, it's not mine, but the artistic director at Epsilon Game, Nancy, was a great character modeler. She was a lead character modeler at that time at Ubisoft, but she was working mainly on Excel sheets, managing the team, making the 3D models. And after a few years, it was that kind of decision that everybody had to make. Like, I'm good at what I'm doing at the craft, and now I'm becoming only a manager. Is that really what I want to do? Some people, yes, and it's okay to be a manager. I was a manager for 15 years in the games industry, so it's totally okay. It's not a judgment, but it's just a personal decision at one point, saying like, okay, I started as a craft woman or a craft man, and now what do I do? Do I manage people? Do I become a better HR person, because a manager involves a lot managing people, not only tasks and projects. So it's a question of, of decision and where you want to go. And do I still want to continue on that path for like the next 10 years, 15 years, 20 years? So the people I was talking to were like all over 35 and were in the industry for about 15 years. And the idea of, let's make a game together. We're going to be maximum 10 because we don't have any resources. So we're going to be poor. Are you okay about being poor for the next like 3 years and make the game that we want to make and have fun at least? And they gave it a shot. And I'm so humbled about that, because it was a bumpy road. It was not all very happy people every day, that's for sure. The stress level of having to pay for your mortgage and everything, and not money coming in, and all those things, it's kind of, the stress was intense, but I would never go back and not redo it. I would redo it like in a heartbeat, because this experience actually, today, if I'm in this position at Phoenix Lab, it's because I did that. And I do understand what it is to start a studio and to have people and to inspire people and going on board, and it's going to work, and we're going to do it together, and we're doing it together. So for me, this experience is like, it's key. And I'm really touched that my associates and the employees that we had all decided to jump at the same time. We were in the same position, actually, in the same mind space. And they all said, and now nobody is working like as a freelancer or they own the studio. We're all back in bigger structure. But what we learned in those years that we went together, it's enormous, and nobody regrets. And we were all in the same headspace at that time, saying like, let's try it. We won't try it when we're like 65, 35, 40. Let's do it right now. And just the last thing, I give classes to university in Montreal, Design and Animation University. And I tell the student, is like, if ever you're feeling a little entrepreneur and you really want to start a game, if you live at your parents' house, now is the time. You don't have kids, you don't have anything to pay. Do it now. Take 2-3 years, do the game you want to do. It's the good timing.
Wow. And I'm just going to already invite you now, because we have a new fine arts program in games at USC. And you are my first invitee, but that's not what we're talking about today. I want you were born into this cauldron of development, this hub in Montreal. Thousands of people making games together. Brian, you were in the heartland of America, okay? In upstate New York, probably, not a stone's throw from your next developer. How did you find your guild, right, in a very, very different setting than where Anne?
Yeah, it was really tough. And especially early, it's not like, we're all playing, multiplayer games together. I mean, I guess we were actually to some degree, just older games. But it's like, I always kind of picture that like little scene from Zelda where it says it's dangerous to go it alone. Like you have to have this team. And I think for me anyway, like slowly kind of over the years, you meet like-minded people. And these days, I play games with a lot of people online that I've just been friends with over the years. And I think we kind of have this like built-in advantage, because like we make things that we love and we love them forever. I mean, something you work on, it's your art, and you kind of want to play it forever. So Jing and I were talking the other day, and I was saying that I still play games with some of the folks that I used to work with at Riot when her and I first met, because League of Legends is an amazing game and I absolutely love it, and we had a lot of fun, and it's just like a great way to stay connected. But I think, you do kind of collect, these folks over the years. And this is another great thing about the gaming industry is once you kind of like claw your way in a little bit, which I understand sometimes people think it's a little bit hard to kind of claw your way in. But once you're in, it's actually really welcoming. I would say like, it's just in general, to me anyway, it's always been a really supporting community. So, even those folks that I met all those years ago, 2005, 6 or whatever it was, like Guitar Hero, I still talk with a lot of them. And like you said, the area is small. I actually still work with a few of them. So, it's been that all these years. And, earlier you were asking about kind of like route planning and like how people figure out where they want to go. So like I'm the guy when I play an open world game who gets just completely distracted running through the woods, like I'll never get there because I love just going off and exploring. But I think like what makes that fun is, when you're doing it with other people, right? Then it's really fun. And all those little things just become, fun moments that you're kind of like hanging out together. But like more specifically, I think just to give people some good like specific action items or whatever on this one. There are a lot of like gaming Slacks, gaming Discords of game developers and people in the game industry, and there's a bunch I kind of have joined and left a bunch over the years, but there's a couple that I'm in right now that are sort of people that are in similar and really different types of jobs around the industry and around the world. And that's been really great. Just being in there, listening to what people are kind of thinking about and working on, and watching people talk about news. I think you just get more from like a Discord or a Slack than you really do on Twitter, because you don't have that built-in like megaphone effect that you get on Twitter where everyone's just kind of shouting. So like specifically some of the Discords and Slacks I'm in have been absolutely incredible. And when I meet people, I had just met Connie for the first time last week, but asked her the same thing. Where do you hang out? When you're online and you're locked in your house, you're in your work Slack. Do you have anything else? And so we were sort of trading links for stuff like that. But I definitely would recommend that everybody, find something, whether it's the IGDA, local IGDA group, or colleges have groups. Somehow I secretly snuck into the Stanford Games mailing list. I didn't go to Stanford, just to be clear. Somehow I snuck on it. So if anyone's watching, please don't kick me off. But there's things like that I think that are really good, and definitely recommend everybody find a couple of these things and just kind of join up and try to contribute a little bit.
Awesome. It's funny. You remind me of Elder Scrolls. I just remember turning it on and just running off into the woods. I didn't know there was a whole game. I just heard you got to play Elder Scrolls, and I just ran off in the woods and never began the original quest for like 2 days because I didn't know.
80 hours still into that game.
And everyone's talking about this game like, what? Are you sure that game with the woods? Yeah. But I digressed before I take us too far down a side quest of my own. I mean, we're here on this quest because of Jing. Jing, you brought us together, right? You assembled us at this moment, in your career. Could you maybe just frame how you view networking, trust building, paint us a picture?
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of have a little bit of an allergic reaction to the word networking because I think that there are so many more unsavory connotations because there's something transactional about the concept of networking. But I do think a lot about building relationships, building really authentic connections with folks, and how important that is both in our industry as a whole, because the games industry is very connected. It can be very welcoming, very supportive, but also especially if you're building an atypical career, one that doesn't look kind of like others that have already been established, having a strong support group of your guild, like you put it earlier, Gordon, like having your guilds and having those relationships be ones that you have, contributed to, grown, cultivated, like really, really grown over the years, helps you be able to actually navigate through having a more of a multi-class career, because so much of being able to move from one role to the other, at least from my experience, has been working from already established trust with folks. So in the last, whether it was shifting entire disciplines and teams in my time at Riot, or starting my startup, or ending up at Phoenix Labs, or even the things I was doing within Phoenix Labs, a lot of those would have been infinitely harder or not even possible in the first place if I didn't already have established trust with some of the key folks along the way. And so, I had, I'll give you the example of with my my co-founders, my two co-founders for Bot School, the three of us had not actually worked directly together with one another until we started our entrepreneurial journey. But we had years of friendship that had built up through a combination of just kind of being there for each other. One of our CEO at the time, Chris Cobb, he was one of the engineering leads on a team in League of Legends. And I've worked with his team a couple of times to help them be able to better tell the story of what Riot and League was trying to do around player behavior. And through that, we just kind of kept in touch and, were a sounding board for one another. And because of that relationship that had built up over the course of years, when time came to want to go on a founding journey, there was already we had all those years of established relationships to be able to go back to and understanding how we worked and how we could be helping with each other on this journey. And then when I looked at, putting together this panel, in recent years, I've had, I do some mentorship and talk with both folks that are in the games industry and outside of it. And I've had a lot of folks, reach out when they see kind of the weird career that I've had and want to know more about what it takes to multi-class. And the question had come up enough times in the last few years that when time came around for GDC this year, I thought, hey, maybe it'd be good to do a talk around this. And in bringing together the panel, I looked at the really interesting, multifaceted folks that I had encountered in my time in games, which is all of you, and thought about who else have I encountered along the way that I think would have a really interesting perspective, who've had these really fascinating journeys and have navigated their way through so many different kinds of circumstances, teams, and worked on a variety of different types of games, teams, companies. And, I was really happy that we were able to bring everyone together. So yeah, I think, like Brian was saying earlier, like when you spend time with folks, as you encounter them, having those moments of really authentic connection and continuing to take that seed and cultivate it by just kind of caring about what other folks are working on, wanting to support each other. I think when you have that kind of two-way relationship that happens, again, authentically, over the course of weeks and months and years, it makes everything so much brighter and better.
No, for sure. Thank you for putting a framework to this. And as I sort of think about what you were saying about authenticity, and I think about Anne assembling like these warriors of development in Montreal, and Brian talking about the magic of play together. I think about you, Connie. Tell you why. Because you're like a paladin, okay? Because you bring together both the magic of rich game experiences, but also you're deep in the Seattle community, this community of all these studios where everyone's working and spinning off of Microsoft and Bungie and all these studios, but you have to do it all. And especially now in these times, right, where we've been displaced a little bit, right? You have to maybe lean a little more into the magic sometimes than into the physical proximity and things we share, as student experiences. Could you maybe talk about that, Connie, like the life of a paladin?
Yeah, I'm happy to. So, I actually moved to Seattle in late 2015, 2016, and I actually didn't really know anybody up here. This is my first attempt to leave games. I had gone to work for like a publisher at some startup, and it ended the way most, startups end. But to really build on what Jing was saying is, I really think that, if you're like baby Connie and don't really know what you want to do, and you just know that you love games, you want to be part of that magic, right? And you're not quite sure what to do. I think the most important thing is to, build authentic relationships, be sincere, right? You get to enjoy the flowers in the garden that you grow, and how your garden grows is what do you nurture, right? And I think I went from really not knowing anyone other than like one or two like personal friends up here in Seattle to having a really wonderful network of like professional friends who are also now personal friends, right? And I think being willing to ask for help, being willing to put yourself out there. In Seattle, I can't tell you how many people that I just ended up becoming good friends with because I was like, hey, right? Do you want to grab coffee sometime? Or, hey, I would really like to chat with you sometime about, some work thing, right? I'm just curious about your thoughts, right? And I think that's hard. Seattle has a bad rep, the Seattle freeze, where people are like cold and, talk a lot about wanting to hang out, but no one ever actually shows up, right? But even though that's a little bit true, sorry, Seattle, I also think that if you really want to put yourself out there, you need to also be willing to just be resilient, right? I can't tell you how many number of times, right? Like the connections that I built, where did they start? They just started from me asking someone that. And not everybody said yes. Not everybody was friendly and welcoming, right? It's a lot of times, in fact, I would say the majority of the time, it's not personal. People are busy. People have things that are going on, right? It's not the right time for you two to connect. But I think having intentionality, having sincerity, wanting to build those authentic relationships and reach out and not being too hard on other people or yourself. If somebody, says no, or is not there, or is not interested in talking, it opens up so many opportunities to like learn, to make new friends. And, I really view it's a side benefit where it's like, oh, and also we happen to be in the same industry. And now I have people I can call if I have questions about things, or as is often the case, especially once you get to the leadership level, right? Having people you can turn to and just go, look, I have a really challenging problem and I don't know what the right way forward is. And I don't even know that there's a right answer, but I would appreciate what people's thoughts are. And that's vulnerability. That's opening yourself up, right? That's talking about your mistakes. That's saying, I don't know. I'm in charge and I should know and I don't know. And it's been true both for rebuilding, right, my professional network in Seattle, and I think it's true throughout my career, which is, come up and just ask. The worst thing that someone can say is no.
So interesting. I think so. In our careers, there have been at least, well, I'd say a third revolution. So for me, the first revolution was online play. Okay, the ability to play from my home and connect with friends, colleagues, so on and so forth from my computer. The second one was mobile play. And by that, I meant that play could be with me 24/7. Wherever I was, I could be farming or doing or playing, connecting, chatting, so on and so forth. I'd offer that we're in the midst of a third revolution. Okay. And that third revolution is around video streaming. And by that, I mean that personally, professionally, in both commerce and interaction, video streaming is something now that everyone has been a part of. And so I want to talk to you, Jing. I want to talk to you, Brian, because just two different perspectives. Jing, I want to talk about like how in this age of remote, like what sort of new strategies have been helpful to you to thinking about navigating professionally? And then Brian, while I cue you up here, I want to talk about it as a profession, like in this craft, like how has it changed your ability to be a part of games that video streaming has become a thing? So let me start with you, Jane.
So I think the remote world that we've been in for the last couple of years has come with a lot of just like interesting trade-offs. I think in general, when we think about continuing to forge connections and building those authentic relationships and like building that sense of community, in some facets it's gotten harder because you're not able to spend in-person time. You get kind of like less ambient connection and magic that happens between people, but at the same time it closes a distance between folks. So Anne and I are on opposite sides of the continent from one another, but she and I got to, I think, have a conversation her first couple of weeks that she was at Phoenix Labs at a time that worked for both of us. And it was something where we got to talk to one another about our respective journeys. And I got to know her and became friends with her. And that was a thing that would have been much harder in a time before it became so commonplace to be able to have these, video calls. I think the other thing that's been really interesting is that in with video conferencing, you get to work together with people and pair with other folks and learn from other folks in a way that just is so much more deep. You kind of get more slices of people's actual day-to-day lives as a result. But going back to what I was saying earlier around the trade-offs, I think the investment that an individual has to make in be able to forge those connections goes up higher, because you can't take for granted that you can just run into someone and you can see them in the office with you, that you can swing by someone's desk. I used to do this a lot with some of the engineers that I would work with, where we just get those 15 minutes of time when we look at a thing together because I happen to be next to their desk, or walking by an artist's desk and seeing the stuff that they've got posted up on the wall around them, and to be able to have those 5 minutes, 10 minutes of exchanges. Those have to be a lot more deliberate now in our current world than they were a few years prior. So I think if you want to forge those relationships, if you want to cultivate them, you have to put in a lot more direct personal effort and proactiveness toward it. I think the other thing too is there in the last couple of years, I think it's been really important to think about what kinds of communication is the best suited for the other folks that you're trying to build a relationship with, because not everyone, some folks take to video calls swimmingly. They're fine being on calls all day long, not a problem. And others, it's torture to be on a call for even just 30 minutes to an hour, right? Some folks are really strong when it comes to real-time written communication, and others really need things to be written in longer form with more time to digest, more time to think about their response. And so I think it's really sharpened the need for folks to invest in their communication skills as well as their communication empathy.
Wow. It's a lot of food for thought there. By video, where we're all experiencing this content right now. Brian, video streaming became a part of your professional life. Talk about that. Talk about taking a brief jaunt into this world where we're actually all natively residing right now.
Yeah, it's funny. We're talking earlier about character sheets and sort of where you want to end up. And I mentioned I had always just dreamed of being an entrepreneur. But again, Albany, New York, right? It's not Silicon Valley. It's not Seattle. It's not LA. You guys, grew up with this and understanding things how you're seeing this all the time. For us, it was starting a business was, the tire shop right up the road, or somebody going out and being an accountant. So I knew I wanted to understand this. And I had been sort of growing my network a little bit. And like Jing said, I also kind of hate the word networking. I met a buddy at a game jam hackathon, and we just hit it off. And it turned out he was doing, some kind of investing, and he was just complaining that nobody understands game investing and all this kind of stuff. And so we started talking about it. And I said, well, if I'm going to be honest, dude, I don't actually understand this investing thing at all. Bar none, I don't get it. I don't understand any of the words you're saying. I'm faking it because I just, I don't want to look like I'm dumb. And he said, oh, well, let me teach you. So probably one of my best friends still to this day. But anyway, so yeah, I had this opportunity probably 2015 when kind of the streaming services were coming out, 2014, the Netflix and the Prime Video, that we had put this tool set together for games, and we had sold this back end stuff to games where you'd sort of spin your game up on our software. And we said, well, shoot, you could kind of spin a whole video platform up on this software, and let's go see if we can raise some money for this. So I think of this as my side quest. Do I like video streaming? Not that much. I like video games, but I wanted to get this on my character sheet. I knew I wanted to get this, and so we spent a year, pitching venture capital companies and being told no 1,000 times. And again, you got to understand, like, I didn't understand any of this, right? So, I remember pitching one of like the really big VCs now, like Andreessen Horowitz, and then them just sort of being like, who is this guy? Like, he doesn't get the slightest what's going on. And it's sort of like funny to look back at, but this is how careers are. Everybody looks back at how naive they were. Nobody's born knowing anything. You have to just learn it and be humble and ask, just like Connie said. So I always think of this as my side quest because I did spend a couple years doing this. The company was not successful. But, in this weird path of life and like getting lost in the woods and coming back, that friend that I made, we're still, best friends basically to these days. He took some of that. He was able to get kind of a company off the ground. Was it one of these like, venture-backed startups? No. But he had a company and he's been successful and he's still open and he's doing a great job and his company's grown to 40 people. And he took all that work we did 7 years ago into that. And for myself, I had a chance to meet all these VCs and honestly, back then there really was nobody investing in gaming. But along the way, a couple of them said, oh, this guy, doesn't know anything about VC, but knows a lot about games. And so, I got asked to be a venture partner with Convoy Ventures, which I work at now. And that's how I met all these folks, is by, probably embarrassing myself a couple times. So I always think of this as my side quest, but it's like any side quest, you sort of complete it and you go back to the main quest. And that's kind of like where, I kind of ended up. But, out of that, my character sheet at this point has a lot of experience on this. And, I've vetted 100 companies and I know how these deals work now. And, I've had a chance to see this more than a lot of people have. But that's how I picked it up.
That's so cool. I mean, something that all of you share now is that you have the vantage point of career, not just job or role. And now you have some more perspective on how important it was to take the shots when you took them, but also of how many shots you may have to take, right? And perhaps for everyone at home who may be like, okay, I came to this talk, right? I don't know if I want to take my next shot now or in 10 years, if I want to get promoted or I want to herd the troops right now. I'll go to you, Jing, first, okay? I mean, we're on a pretty well-defined career path. Riot Games, okay? Externalities aside, why did you decide to risk that stable job and take your shot, right, with bot school?
Oh man, I've done that actually a couple of times. I did it earlier this year when I decided to say a goodbye for now from Phoenix Labs and spend time on my personal projects. But yeah, like the experience with Riot, it was because I had a clear understanding that I wanted to do broader skill acquisition and that there was a pocket of skills that I knew I could only experience if I started my own company. I could read all I wanted about, fundraising with VCs and setting up a business. And I got to do a little bit of a proxy of the starting a business component with the Riot merch team because it was a separate business unit within Riot Games and learned a lot of that. But that was, I equated that experience to skydiving with a tandem instructor strapped to your back. And I just wanted to jump out of the plane one time at least by myself so I would know what it would feel like to, handle that adrenaline, to have to pull the cords. I don't know. I only know this much about skydiving. I've only ever been actually tandem skydiving one time. So this analogy is going to fade away really quickly. But essentially, I knew I wanted to do it at least once so that I would be able to learn all of those things and really experience them because knowing that I would look at what I would regret if I didn't do it versus what I would regret if I did do it. And if I did do it, the thing I might regret is loss of financial security for a chunk of time, my pride in not being able to build a company. But the amount that both those things were things that I could overcome. And I knew that I would learn so much that you just can't get out of a textbook, that you can't get by going to school, by just going through and experiencing it. And whereas if I flipped it around and I thought about what would I regret if I stayed, it's like I would give up a chance to really learn and flesh out this entire portion of this entire branch of my skill tree that I wouldn't be able to earn in some other way by staying at the company. And I also, like Anne was saying earlier, there are some things that are easier to be able to do at certain points in your life. And it's in my life circumstance at that time was I did not have to think about a mortgage and I did not have to think about kids. And so I had a higher appetite for taking on some of the financial risks. And I also just said to myself, I thought of it as if I were doing a self-study MBA, like that was the equivalent, right? I'm going to go learn some of this stuff. And when I have looked at any of these kinds of decisions, one of the frameworks I typically use is I really list out all the different things that I care about from a value standpoint and the things that I'm fearful about or excited about as I'm looking at the opportunity. And then I try to prioritize between what are these things in terms of priority and importance to me. And if I stay versus if I go, how would I actually, rate how true or how present or, what would I score each of these different options? And then that doesn't necessarily give me a final answer, but it prompts a lot of good introspection and internal conversation. And I came up the other end of that exercise, and just thought, I have so much more to lose if I don't try this right now than if I do. That's how I got there.
What I love about what all of you talk about, that all of you are acting on the world. You're all having a plan. You're assessing, developing skills, taking side quests, but all of you talking about your agency. So I want to ask you, now, I'll go to you first, Anne, right? Are you where you want to be right now? And if yes or if no, what is the planning you're doing now? What are the skills you're developing now for your next phase?
Currently, I'm not even looking at the next phase because I'm really happy where I'm at. Okay. It's really I'm really happy. It's every day I wake up and I'm happy to work with the team I'm working with within the company I'm working in, and I'm just grateful. So right now it's just I want to do the best. And one thing that Connie, I think you're the first one that mentioned it, that how much we have to show us as vulnerable, because this is what we are, everybody as humans. And I'm sure it's the same for you guys also, but at every changes, it's really scary. It's a leap of faith, and it's only you. And sometimes the faith you have in yourself is not at the highest point, so it's really uncomfortable, but I would just suggest to everybody, just do it, because all the things that you learn and the things that you have as a baggage, as a background, is not going to go away. Like when I moved to my first associate producer in narrative for Far Cry 3, I was an animation trade director at Ubisoft in the HR department, which was far away from the associate producer for narratives. But then I did a study about the state of animation and cinematics and scripted event at Ubisoft Montreal. And I became, after the presentation, kind of a specialist about narrative at Ubisoft. And I was like, no, I'm not. It's like, I was not in production doing narratives or cinematics and whatnot. It's like, yeah, but you have that perspective now that nobody has. So there you go and do the job and help us ship Far Cry 3. And it's like, okay. And it was scary, but I've learned so much in that process. And we all learn so much in that process doing this thing. So it's always, it's really different than somebody that is becoming an expert. So the knowledge is just accumulating in one or multiple areas, but it's really bland and it's really bold. When you change course, it's like, oh, I'm kind of losing something. No, you're gaining. It's just not in the same area. It's just widening. And we have to see this to be able to make that step, actually, because like I said, it's a scary thing. It's like starting a new job. Very often it's a new adventure. So it's a lot of things that you don't know. And you have to ask all the time to everybody. I don't know. I'm new to that. Can you help me? Yes. All right. Everybody's there to help.
Well, speaking of, right, the people in this crowd who are watching this talk, they're finding their own paths, and they're going to want to hopefully continue to connect with us, right? Because all of us agree, that we're here to help and to lift each other up and lift up our craft. And I actually want to start with you, Anne, because now that we know where you are and people want to vibe like you're vibing, how do people stay in touch with you?
Anjibo, my Twitter key is Anjibo. You can join me on. Am I on the Discord channel? Aside from the job, I have my personal server, but I think that Twitter would be the best way to link with me.
Perfect. Connie, I'll ask you the same thing.
Same thing for all the mad smack talk we've said about Twitter, right? I love it, right? Like, I don't use it that much. Well, okay, I'm casually active, so absolutely. I believe that our Twitter handles are in our bios, our speaker bios. So please feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to answer questions and chat with folks and share my dog pics.
Amazing. Brian, same question.
Yeah, I said I don't like Twitter, but probably the same thing. Also, like I'm on LinkedIn a lot, even though, I think nobody sort of loves LinkedIn, but you sort of have to be there. You definitely have to be there. So I'm there too. And I'm working on I bought a firehouse, and I'm working on building a training center here for people who want to get into games so that future Brians of the world don't have the same trouble networking as anyone else. So if you want to move to the great Mecca upstate New York, come hang out with me in the training center when it's done in like 6 or 8 months. And you too can be sitting in negative 15-degree weather on an afternoon on a Tuesday. So, yeah.
We actually also have a gaming firehouse in LA, but I digress.
Nice.
Jane, who brought us together? How can people keep this going? If they're like, I want to be on this train, how do they connect?
Yeah, hit me up on Twitter. I'm also on LinkedIn as well. I'm on Twitter infrequently, but I'm always open to chatting with folks who are interested in learning more about the industry or navigating their careers in it.
I'm on Twitter too. Thank you for joining us for our panel.
Yeah.
Okay, that was a super interesting video that I listened to, that I was required to listen to. And I think I can come up with 2 paragraphs about that. And what I'm going to do, first of all, let me just say what they were saying about live streaming being like the next revolution. Like, I couldn't agree more, because that's literally what I'm doing. I'm live streaming while watching people talk about live streaming. I'm a nerd. But anyway, so I'm supposed to post discussion listing out your career goals and steps to achieve them. Please cite any references in your discussion. Interesting. Well, here's what I'm going to do, guys. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to open up my email, because I like to email things to myself. I like to, draft an email to myself, and then I like to send that, and I proofread it later and do all kinds of things before I submit it for my official post, because my grades are important. So let's see here. what I'm going to do is I have multiple email addresses. So my channelclibs@gmail.com email and my Full Sail email. So we're going to call this post 1 draft 1. Okay. Yeah, okay. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to move myself over here, and then I'm going to type a little draft for my post here. So post discussion listing out your career goals and steps to achieve them. Okay, I think I know what to say. Yeah. Listening to the video of those 5 people. Let's see here. Listening to the panel video of those 5 people talking about changes in their careers and taking risks in order to find something more fulfilling is actually very inspiring to me. My ideas and dreams of the career I really want has changed over time. I was inspired to begin college with Full Sail because I enjoyed computer programming and made my own Tetris game. As I learn more, my phone made a noise here. Let's see. Oh, it's just okay. I'm going to silence my phone so it doesn't distract me. So as I learn more about the video game industry and esports, I find my goals have changed dramatically. Okay. I don't see myself as working in a team for a company because I cannot trust people and have experienced rejection, betrayal, and betrayal, discrimination, and sexual harassment in my 3 main jobs I have worked in my adult life. I do see myself as someone who not only wants to start my own business, but in fact, I can see that it is my only option. I can't count on any one person or company made up of people for my fulfillment and finances. I have made the decision a few months ago to be a chess coach. I have an entire plan of how I want to go about it, and in fact, already have a few people interested in taking chess lessons from me. My primary steps right now are regularly streaming on Twitch and posting on social media about the game of chess and entertaining people through my videos and my writing. I have a WordPress blog where I write detailed posts about chess openings and share various related things, including digital art and video game reviews. It turns out that chess is actually a video game played with other people across the world. And my mission is to show that chess and other games of skill are meant for everyone of any race, gender, religion, financial status, or whatever differences you can find between people. Let's see here. Let's see, I'm thinking. There's something more. I need a big finish. There's something I need to say here. I call my business Chastity's Chess Challenge. And what I do includes a Twitch channel, a website, and a book that I will eventually make by compiling my blog posts with the essential information every chess player should know. But beyond that, I do enjoy all other kinds of video games as well. And I love discussing them with other people. I briefly worked at GameStop, and I really miss those days of sharing memories and friendships formed because of video games. Oh, let's see here. Okay. Let's see. Post a discussion listing out your career goals and the steps to achieve them. Please cite any references in your discussion. Let's see here. Cite any references. What references? Because this is straight from the heart. The only references that I could include would be links to my actual work that I do online. That includes my Twitch channel, my links to my stuff. Let's see, are there any other references that I am including here? What kind of... I don't know. Honestly, I can think about that later after the stream, but here's what I am going to do. What I am going to do for now is I wrote this big thing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my homepage, and my homepage is a link tree. This is the reference. This is the ultimate reference because this contains absolutely everything. It contains everything. It contains all the links that you need to know. It goes to my blog, my Twitch channel, my YouTube channel, my account on livechess.org, my Shogi account on liveshogi.org, and my video game Chastity, which is a Tetris clone published on Steam. These are my top 6 links, and of course I'm going to include this in my post. Of course I'm going to do that. So now I'm not really sure. Wait, I don't like, I want to paste that as a plain text, is what I want to do, because I hate when it doesn't show the URL. I want to show the URL because I like the look of the URL here. So that's post 1, draft 1. So let's see. So yeah. Yeah, Microsoft Edge is suggesting slight corrections here. So I'm going to work more on that draft later, probably after the stream. But you see, I just drafted all of this in this email. But is there anything else I need to write, something to add to it? Hmm. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need to add to this, like another thought that I need to add to it. Okay, I have something else. What I ask of people is that they watch, read, and ask me more if they are interested in learning about the game of chess, or they would like me to review other video games and even play with me sometimes. That's good. That's good. I can fix things later, but that's post one, draft one. I'm going to email this to myself. Yeah, I'm emailing that to myself. And it's due Wednesday night, so I still have some time to proofread it, fix things, that kind of thing. But I have a good start. And the minimum was 2 fully developed paragraphs. I may have to connect or break paragraphs, I'm not sure. I'll work on that more later, but I spent okay, let's see how long have I been streaming. I spent an hour and a half on this assignment already because I had to watch the hour-long panel discussion with those people, and then I had to write a post, and there will still be more work later. So you get the idea of how time-consuming this is for me. So, and let's look back at my other assignments too. So let's go, because I'm in week 4 now. I'm supposed to do a pitch deck for one of my assignments. And here's the quick instructional video here.
For the final assignment and project for game business models, you'll be creating and delivering a fully supported pitch concept. Start by developing a business concept. This could be an all-new title or a new business model for an existing title. It could be developing a business around you as a streamer or developing revenue sources for a competitive organization or event, etc. Gather competitor information and use that to inform potential revenue levels, competitive analysis, evaluate market conditions and if the business is viable in the current market, market research, outline target audience details and your estimate of market share, audience research. Your pitch should have all required slides as outlined in the instructions and should be answering questions like, why this game? Why now? Who is it for? How much will it cost? And how much will it make? And things like, what are the concept's unique selling points? How is this differentiated from the competition? What should be delivered is the final presentation, all of the supporting research materials, and a video of you presenting your slides. Make sure to highlight the data that has informed your decisions.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, what he said about it could be a business around me as a streamer. I think that's kind of what it's going to be. Yeah. And it has to have this information: title page, executive summary, game details, the team, research, marketing, production schedule requests. And I'll have to tailor it to what I'm doing, because what I want to do for my pitch deck and video presentation is the entire thing is going to be around Chastity's chess challenge, what the entire idea is, because I touched on it in the post that I just wrote in my email. But I want to really describe in detail what Chastity's chess challenge is. But sometimes describing things in words can be kind of hard. It can be hard to describe things in words. It's much easier to actually show people what it is you do. That's why I wanted to do this video where you actually see me as I try to work on my schoolwork. So, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to present to you Chastity's Chess Challenge. And since you see what's happening in my browser right now, then it's very important here. So, what I'm going to do now, and I just realized something. I just discovered something kind of interesting. My text of Chastity's Chess Challenge is still technically at the top of the screen. You just can't see it very well. So here's what I'm going to do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to close the school browser, close the email browser tab, and I'm going to go to livechess.org, which is my favorite site. Okay. This is my profile here. And what I'm going to do here, I'll close this other tab here. Now you see this tab here. I'm going to switch the scene a little bit here. Now you see, you can see at the top, Chastity's Chess Challenge, and at the bottom is where the comments will go when they appear. So, for example, I'm going to move my camera a little bit over here, and you're going to see why. Because I do this a lot. I have a lot of videos of Chastity's Chess Challenge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the analysis board first. And just as an example, I just realized something. See, I modified the size of the board is what I had done. I had modified the size of the board, so now it doesn't fit on the entire screen exactly. Okay, I like it to be big, so let me make some adjustments. I'm gonna make some adjustments here because I want there to be space for comments. I do want there to be space for comments. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust this here. And I recently found out that you can adjust the size of the chessboard in the settings. So I'm going to go to the settings and I'm going to the board. I'm going to reduce the size just a little bit there. Let's see here. What do we got? I can make it a little bit bigger than that. I just need to make sure there's space for the comments. See, this is the fine details. There, let's see. Let's see here. Okay, just a little bit more. Hey, that's not bad. Okay, that's actually good because now you see the entire chessboard on the screen, but there's also room for comments. Now we don't have any comments yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do Hello world. There we are. See, now if I comment or if anybody else comments, you'll see it with the black background at the bottom of the screen. That was the way I designed it, but I had messed with some settings of the size of the chessboard on livechess.org. And by the way, livechess.org is basically the best site for playing chess. And I think you'll understand why the more you watch my videos, because I use it all the time. Sometimes I play chess on other sites, but live chess is like my main site. So let's talk about the King's Gambit using the analysis board. So the King's Gambit is when there are both sides play the king's pawn, and then white offers a gambit pawn. Now, if black accepts the gambit, there's a few things that are important here. They've sacrificed a pawn, and we need to worry about the queen coming here. We don't want the queen to come here and put the king in check. So one way to deal with this is to simply move the knight here. And then, black can't move their queen there, so they're going to have to move a different piece. Now, what they'll probably do, though, is they're probably going to go right here, and they're probably going to attack this pawn, which is actually very interesting here, because if you look at this is actually kind of funny. This knight can actually go right here, and it will protect that pawn. So now this knight can't take the pawn. I mean, this is absolutely wild here. And you never know how a game's actually going to go, but here's where it gets interesting. The King's Gambit, let's say this happens, okay? Let's say black advances the pawn, queen takes, and then, let's say the knight tries to move somewhere else, which it's a dumb example. Let's say the knight goes here, and then white checkmates. It's checkmate, You can get a quick checkmate pretty fast with the King's Gambit. Now, there's other ways to deal with it. See, let's back up a step. Let's go back here. Now remember that black has just accepted the pawn, and we don't want the queen to be able to go here. Well, besides moving the knight to block the queen from coming here and putting the king in check, there's another move. h4. We advance this pawn. So now if the queen comes to take this pawn, then the rook kills the queen. So that's actually not a bad thing to do. And black will still probably want to try to attack this pawn here. And that's not really much of a problem necessarily. But what we'll probably want to do here is we will want to, hey, let's just advance the pawn. Let's advance the pawn, attack the knight, and then, the knight will have to go somewhere. Yeah, this is crazy, guys. I'm making the move of both sides, but the King's Gambit can lead to some very interesting games. It really can. And I've just been thinking about the King's Gambit because I have not yet written a blog post on the King's Gambit. And I kind of wanted to do a video on the King's Gambit to accompany the post I do, because that's what I do. I play chess, I make videos of chess, I write blog posts about chess. I do it. I'm obsessed with chess. I also love Tetris, by the way, but chess is an easier game for everyone to get into. Not everybody has the reflexes for Tetris. So now what we want to do, let's start here as an example. We'll attack that pawn there. We'll attack the weak pawn with the king there. And then see, black is trying to do an attack here. But that's not really the biggest problem in the world necessarily. And what we will actually want to do here is we will want to, see, this square is very important. I think what I will do is, I'm making myself think here. Okay, this is a crazy idea. Let's block that bishop from accessing the square. Now the bishop can't take the pawn because then the queen kills it. So the bishop has to retreat, somewhere. So it goes there, puts the king in check, then move the pawn. Well, the bishop has to go somewhere. So it retreats and we can attack the bishop again. I mean, this is just an example. I know it looks easy, but that's because I'm playing both sides. You never know how it will actually go until you actually try using it in a game with another person. But it can lead to some interesting outcomes. But anyway, we have some interesting things happening here. For example, I can now take this pawn here. I've been wanting to do that for a while. And black will try to get other pieces out. And there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, then the queen is going to come right here and attack this knight. The knight doesn't want to die, so it's going to move out of the way, for instance. Where will the knight go? Well, in this case, there's actually not a good place for the knight to go. But let's just say for the sake of example, the knight goes here and then take with bishop. The queen is in danger. So what's black going to do? Well, block the check with a pawn. That's fine. But then take the pawn there. Then the pawn takes back. And then we have an interesting situation here because fork between the queen and the rook. So they can block this attack on the queen here, but then we end up basically we end up killing the rook. I mean, this is absolute slaughter. I mean, this is complete slaughter, obviously. This is kind of dumb. yeah, like they could try to move things out there, and then they could do that. Yeah, that's fine. But I mean, it's still absolute insanity. I'm playing chess with myself. This is actually kind of funny. This is funny that I'm doing this. Check. Check. Like, I don't know, man. This is dumb. But yeah, this is completely wild. But yeah, anyway, you never know how it's going to go until you play an actual game with another person. Playing chess with myself is cool and all, but I'm fighting against myself and it doesn't feel right. So I'm going to actually play games of chess against other people. That's what I'm going to do next. So let's try this. I have a move I need to make in this chess game. What am I going to do here about that? I don't see any real threats. Let's just move that knight there. There's correspondence chess. So let's have a quick pairing. Let's do a 5-minute blitz game. Let's just try this. Okay, here we go. I'm going to try to go for the King's Gambit here. Will they take the King's Gambit? Will they do it? Interesting. They didn't actually take the Gambit. They're going to let me have their pawn. That's fine. I'll take that pawn. I'll do it. Okay, and then they killed that knight. That's interesting. Okay. Yeah, that was weird. Yeah, that was very weird. Yeah, this game did not go at all like I planned. I didn't get to really use the King's Gambit. It didn't go the way I was expecting it to. Let's attack that queen. Okay, there's that. Then, oh, that's right. I can't actually move that. I can't do it. Okay, we're going to go there with the queen. What a weird game. What a very, very strange game. I lost that knight. It just, things didn't exactly go the way I was hoping for. Oh man, that's wild. It's truly wild. Will I win or lose this game? See, that's the excitement. You never know if you're going to win or lose the game. Oh, interesting. Okay, let's try this. What's happening now? What are they going to do? Okay, their queen took my queen. I captured their queen. What will their bishop do? Will their bishop take my bishop? No, it did not. Very interesting indeed. So let's advance the rook right here. Attack that bishop. Okay. And then let's take this pawn. I might as well take that pawn. See no reason not to right now. Okay. And that pawn is, oh, hey, let's take the, yeah, we're just gonna take that knight so it can't kill the pawn. This is interesting. I've never quite had a game that went like this exactly. It's a little bit strange. Okay, there's that. Let's attack that bishop. Like, what's happening here? I need to pay attention to the time, though. Really need to pay attention to the time because it is a time-limited game. And you lose if you run out of time. That's how Blitz works. Okay, there's that. Okay, let's get some other pieces active into the business here. Ooh, they castled the king. That's interesting. Oh, I see what they did there. I see it. I can't, that would put me in check to do that. So I have to move the king. That's unfortunate that they did that to me. Yeah, they're gonna take that pawn. That's what they're gonna do with that rook. I see it now. Yeah, so that didn't go that well. Okay, let's get that bishop out of the way of this rook. We want the rook to be able to get out of there. Okay, so there's that. All right, so let's try this. Let's move that rook behind that bishop. Okay. Very strange. What's happening? Like this game, but I'm moving too slow. That's my problem. Oh, they got me now. I see what they did there. They got me. I can't move the rook because it would put me in check. So yeah, they're winning. This is terrible. Oh well. Okay. Okay. Yeah, let's attack that. Yeah, we're gonna attack that. We're going to do that. Yeah, I mean, I know what they're going to do. They're going to, oops. Okay, that didn't, oh, I should have done a different move. Oh well, it is what it is. Yeah, I should have done a whole different move. Oh well, that's just the way it goes. Well, now what can I do? Yeah, I'm going to resign that game. That game didn't actually go all that well. That game didn't really go that well. Let's try a new opponent. Yeah, let's do this. Let's just do a new opponent. If you lose one game, just do the next. Okay. So, all right. Let's try, wait, Scandinavian. I like the Scandinavian. It's fun. I don't know why I like the Scandinavian so much. It's just really, really awesome. Okay, the king castled. That's fine. That's interesting. It's very interesting indeed. Let's castle our king over here too. Wait. I meant to castle. I misclicked. I meant to castle and I. Oh, whatever. It is what it is. That was a stupid. Yeah, that was a stupid move. I did not even mean to do that. I wanted to castle. I did not mean to do such a crazy move like that. Okay. There we go. Let's do that. Okay. What's happening here? All right, let's do that. Okay, well, how do I want to go about this? I'm living dangerously. I'm totally living dangerously here. That was probably a bad move. Okay. Hopping around the board with this knight. Okay. All right. Wait. Oh, wait. Yeah, I'm not in line to do that. Okay. Let's get this rook over here to attack that bishop. So you never know what's going to happen in a game. You really have no idea what's going to happen in a game. Anybody could win or lose. You could start out winning, but then lose because you made a huge error. It's hard to say how a game will go. My opponent's started one at a time, and I will put them in check right there. Put them in check, and next I will kill their bishop. Okay, they put me in check, but that's fine. That's totally fine. It's not any major threat to me, necessarily. Okay, there's check. Okay. Let's connect those two rooks. Okay, so there's check. Then check again, putting the king in check. Okay, then killing this rook over here. That's fabulous. Then we're going to put the king in check here. Okay, then we're going to put the king in check here. White resigned. Black is victorious. I thought I might lose that one, but I ended up winning it. That's crazy. I was gonna checkmate them next turn. That was fabulous. I didn't get the King's Gambit to work because it's taken a real gamble trying to do the King's Gambit. But one of these days I'll get it working. But that was a fabulous win. But anyway, I'm not going to play chess for the rest of this stream because this is Chastity's Full Sail Challenge. But I really need to show people what Chastity's Chess Challenge is about because that's kind of my business idea. That's what it's about here. So let's look at my next school assignment. I want to look at my next school assignment. What is it I'm going to have to do for my next post? Because that was one discussion post, and I still need to refine it later. I'm going to go back to the other browser scene, and I'm going to, yeah, okay. Let's go back to Full Sail. Okay, what's my other discussion post going to be? Okay, ooh, discussion, okay. All right, how do you evaluate a mobile game's profit potential? Read the article, How do you evaluate a mobile game's profit potential, and post discussion about why it is so difficult to evaluate potential in games. Please cite any references in your post. Okay, so that's another discussion post I have to do. So there's a thing I have to read this time. Okay. Okay, I'm reading this. Hmm. You know what? I'm going to end this stream for now, because this is a lot of reading, and I'm going to work on my next discussion post after I read this, because this is not entertaining for the audience just to watch me read this. I'll post the link though if anybody asks.